So in this lesson, we want to talk about what it means to compare and order integers. In order to do that, we have to understand a few things first. The first thing we need to understand is, what is an integer? Well, without giving you the definition straight away, integers are numbers like 4. 4 is an integer. 7 is an integer. 3 is an integer. 1,278 is an integer. Negative 4 is an integer. Negative 2 is an integer. Negative 100 is an integer, and 0 is an integer. In the realm of things that are not integers, 1/2 is not an integer, 1/4 is not an integer, 0.75, 75 hundredths, not an integer. And so based on this, you can see that what an integer is a positive whole number, like 2, 3, 9, 100. A negative whole number, negative 2, negative 3, negative 9, negative 14, or 0. What it means that integers do not include is that numbers like 1/4 and 0.75, which I've written in yellow so they're less easy to see, those sorts of things are not integers. It's just whole numbers, the counting numbers, the negative whole numbers, and 0. So when we look at it, the integers are more or less what we would write down if we were making a number line where every counting number was a step. Now, when we first learn to count, we only talk about this number line, which is bracketed in black, which is the number line from 0 up until maybe 20, 40, 100. But those are all the positive counting numbers. Well, the integers include all those positive counting numbers. They include 0, and they include the negative numbers, which are really not counting numbers, but they're the negative counterparts to the counting numbers. For a 1, there is a negative 1. For a 2, there is a negative 2. And so on, and so on, and so forth. Those are the integers. So when we talk about comparing integers, what we're really talking about is determining which integer is greater than another. And to do that, we need to have two different signs. One is the less than, and the other is a greater than. And if you need help with reviewing what is a greater than or a less than, you should look at the lesson which reviews what it means to be an inequality and what the greater than and less than signs are. But for right now, we're assuming you know that this is less than and that this is greater than. So what does it mean to be less than or greater than something? Well, in the positive numbers, it means that a number is greater than a number if it has a larger value. Like 12 is greater than 7 because 12 has a greater than 7. At the same time, 7 is less than 12. On the other hand, we have things like 5 less than 17, which means that 17 is greater than 5. And we can see that more or less what we're doing is we're deciding what the place of the number is on the number line. The farther you go in the positive direction, which is to the right on most number lines, that means you are getting greater. If you are moving in the negative direction, that means you are becoming smaller, which the word for that is lesser. Greater than, less than. So as we move farther to the right, you're greater. As we move farther to the left, you're lesser. So we can compare integers just by considering what their place is in the number line, which has a greater value. And this is particularly helpful when we're talking about, or at least starting to talk about, negative numbers. With positive integers, we can do this automatically. We don't need the number line. But if we look at which is greater, not a terribly difficult question, negative 2 or 4, well, 4 is farther to the right, has a greater value than negative 2. So 4 is greater than negative 2. But what if we're talking about negative integers? Negative 3 and 7. Well, if we just had 3 and 7, we would have 3 is less than 7. But now we're not talking about 3 and 7, we're talking about negative 7 and negative 3. And in the negatives, negative 7 is less than negative 3. Because if we count back from 0 and count back in the negative direction, we find 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and the farther and farther negative we get, the larger and larger the digits of the negative number are. Which brings up the rule for negative integers, which is as the digits of a negative number get larger, as its value gets larger, the number itself becomes lesser. So negative 1,000 is less than negative 3, even though for positive numbers, 3 is greater than 1,000. So with all this in mind, go ahead and pause the video and see what you can come up with for comparing integers like 32 and 40, negative 15 and 25, and negative 20 and 30. Go ahead, pause the video, and come back when you are ready to continue. So for the one we have on the left with two positive integers, we know that this is just exactly what we've been doing for years. 32 has a smaller value than 40. If I had 32 apples, I would have less than if I had 40 apples, so 32 is less than 40. For the one in the middle, every negative number is going to be lesser than a positive number. So 15 is less than 25. And remember, as we said, for our negative integers, as the digits of a negative number become larger, the number itself becomes lesser or smaller, so negative 30 is less than negative 20. Alternatively, you could have written this negative 20 is greater than negative 30. Could have written the middle inequality 25 is greater than negative 15, or that 40 is greater than 32. Moving on now to what we call ordering integers, which is just what we call it when we compare a set of more than two integers. And we're going to try not to use the word order to define what it means to order integers, but we're determining how all the numbers compare to each other. And we're making a list from the least number to the greatest number. And if we go into using order in the number of ordering integers, or in the definition of ordering integers, we're just ordering them from least to greatest. We are listing the integers from least to greatest. So if we have some positive integers, 3, 7, 4, and 12, and we want to order them from least to greatest, well, first we find the least number that we have, which is 3. We have the greatest number that we have, which is 12, and we order the ones in the center. 4 is less than 7. So when we order 3, 7, 4, and 12, 3 is less than 4, is less than 7, is less than 12. And this is what we mean by ordering integers, listing them from least to greatest and using the less than sign in the middle of the numbers. Now for positive integers, we know how to do that, but now we're going to include the negative integers. Comparing a set of two or more integers, we want to find out and list them from least to greatest. So let's use an example of some numbers that are on the number line here. We have 3. We have negative 5. We're going to have 0, we're going to have 8, and we're going to have negative 7. Well, if we look on the number line, we want to figure out what the greatest number we have is and what the least number we have is, particularly if we're starting from and listing them from least to greatest. Well, we don't have a negative 10, negative 9, or negative 8, but we do have a negative 7. So negative 7 goes here. Cross that off the list. Next, as we move up, we find a not a negative 3, we find a negative 5. Take that away there. Then we have our 0, a 3, and an 8. So the order of these numbers then from least to greatest is negative 7 is less than negative 5 is less than 0 is less than 3 is less than 8. So don't forget when we're ordering numbers that as the digits and the value of the negative number get larger, the number itself gets lesser, which we can say as smaller, but it's more appropriate to say that they get lesser because they are moving in the less than direction of the number line as opposed to the greater than direction of the number line. So go ahead and pause the video and take some practice to order these integers from least to greatest. All three sets, I'll give them numbers. Number 1, number 2, and number 3. So for number 1, the order that you had should be 10 is less than 13, is less than 15, is less than 23, is less than 42. For number 2, negative 3 is less than 0, is less than 4, is less than 7, is less than 11, is less than 23. And finally, for the last one, negative 20 is less than negative 17, is less than negative 8, is less than negative 4, is less than negative 3, is less than 4. So anytime that we compare order integers, what we need to remember most critically is that as the numbers get larger in the negative direction, they actually get smaller in terms of our less than or greater than, properly called lesser. And when we compare numbers, we are talking about determining which integer is greater than another in a set of two integers, and when we start ordering integers, we are talking about comparing a set of more than two integers. And we can compare in order fractions, we can compare in order decimals, but it would be the same thing in every case. Comparing is between two numbers, ordering is between more than two numbers, and we have to remember that the larger the number section of a negative number, the lesser the number itself.